guys? It's Luke, bringing you my top 6 DraftKings plays for this year's BMW Championship. And wow, last week it was very exciting there at the Northern Trust. It was a very dope week for us in terms of our DFS plays. We picked the winner in Tony Finau, obviously a long time coming for him. Obviously had some banger picks outside that as well, with 8 of the top 10 being in my player pool. We made some serious cash in our DFS contest as a result. Also took home an outright bet on Tony Finau. We also faded guys like Colin Morikawa, Berger, Webb Simpson, guys that weren't relevant at all at Liberty National. So overall, a good week for us. We made some money. Hope you guys did as well. We also had JT as a sleeper pick. He came oh so close at Liberty National. He's personally one of my favorite golfers in the world, top 3 for me. So I was hoping he'd get the job done, him or Tony Finau, obviously. But really can't complain there. We have a lot of momentum going into this week. We look to build on that, have another profitable week for our DFS picks before we get to the Tour Championship. So in this video, we're going to be covering my favorite plays in each price range for DraftKings at the BMW Championship. There'll be guys priced up top, everywhere in the middle, all the way down to our flyer picks. And we're going to be focusing on the picks in this video. I do have a full course breakdown already up on the channel. Link will be in the description of this video. And that's at Caves Value Golf Club. It's a brand new venue. It's where we're playing the BMW this year. So if you haven't checked that out already, I highly recommend that you guys do so. I go over exactly how the course is going to play, how my custom modeling is going for the week, all that kind of stuff. So you guys get exactly why I'm picking the guys that I am. So without further delay though, let's hop into the DFS picks for this week, eh? And for our spend up tier, we have DJ. I'm going back to him at $10,400. He's a top 5 model rank for this week. And over his last 24 measured rounds, only Rahm and DJ have gained across the 4 major statistical categories, at least for the guys priced in that elite 10K plus range. And while many are going to be put off by the miscut last week for DJ, rightfully so, a lot of people are going to forget that he didn't have his driver in the bag. His first day out on the driving range, ended up cracking his driver right before he was supposed to tee off, so obviously didn't have a replacement. Ended up playing with a 5-wood his first day, gained a few, I think it was 0.53 strokes off the tee there, which is pretty modest. And then second day out, put a brand new driver in the bag, something he actually got from Golf Galaxy or PGA Superstore or something like that. Ended up losing almost 3 strokes off the tee, so obviously wasn't feeling very comfortable with it. Hardly actually hit that driver in the second round, opted to hit that 5-wood a majority of the time, and it really showed in his game. Obviously lost a few strokes off the tee in that second round. First round hardly gained off the tee, but where you really saw that effect was with his iron play. He lost a significant amount of strokes in round 1 and round 2, and a lot of that has to do with him not being used to hitting balls that far. He's used to hitting the ball out there 330, 350 yards, having irons in the range of like 120 to 200 yards at the very max. But at Liberty National, he was forced to lay up a lot more than he wanted to. And it really held him back. So I expect a rebound, especially off the tee this week. Off the tee play is obviously one of DJ's greatest assets. And now that he'll have that back, he'll actually literally have the driver back in the bag. We're not being figurative here. He'll literally have it back in the bag. It's going to make a huge difference. I also saw a lot of promise with his game, even despite the miscut. He gained nearly 3 strokes putting on Thursday. He also has somebody who lost nearly 2 strokes around the green on Friday. So he had a lot working against him. He's typically one of the best around the green players in the world, so I don't expect him to bleed strokes like that again. And again, he's been a little bit of a streaky putter. So for him to go out, even when missing a cut, to go out and gain 3 strokes putting, that's actually a really good sign. So again, I expect him to rebound, and that's why he's my spend-up pick for the BMW Championship. And for our second man in, we have Bryson DeChambeau, somebody I was avoiding at all costs last week. I saw him coming in with a lot of volatility. I expected his mental game to be a little bit of an obstacle, as it seemed to be. But at a price of $9,300, he is a top 15 model rank this week. I think it's worth going to him in hopes that you get a lot of that positive volatility. At the Northern Trust his first day, he had made just 2 pars on the round. That should just show you how volatile his game is. And again, he shot an even par for the day. Had 10 birdies, I believe, which is excellent. It was great for fantasy scoring at the very least. And by adding distance and bunches a little bit over a year and a half ago, he's made his game purposefully volatile. He's added a lot of aggressiveness to his game. He takes lines that a lot of other golfers aren't willing to take. He brings on a lot of risk as a result. And aside from U.S. Open-like setups, his game isn't going to fit anything. He has that long bomb and gouge strategy. It's very unorthodox. It's definitely not traditionalist by any means. So as a result, he's not really going to fit any golf course. But if we take a look at how, courses that he seems to do well on, it's courses that are a little bit more difficult. Courses with longer rough, where his length is a little bit more of an advantage than others, and also golf courses with small fairways. Now, this is something I think is going to be a huge factor at the BMW Championship. Last year, the fairways were very narrow at Olympia Club. They purposely let them grow in a little bit. They also let the rough grow to 4 to 6 inches. And the early reports from Caves Value that it's going to be very similar. The fairways are already narrow from some of the flyovers that we've seen over the years, and the rough has been growing over the last month and a half. They haven't mowed it. The course has actually been closed for the last month. That's how long some of the rough has gone. So as a result, I expect his length to be a huge advantage. Over his last 24 rounds, we still seen the driver be a huge asset for the big guy, getting 0.94 shots gained off the tee per round. So obviously he hasn't lost that. The only reason we haven't seen consistent play has been the iron play. Over his last 24 rounds, he's hardly gained on approach, just 0.1 shots gained per round. But that's been with some spike rounds, some rounds of over 3 shots gained approach, and with some rounds of over 4 to 5 shots lost per round. Very evident of that was Saturday at the Northern Trust. He had 2 double bogeys in a row. We actually saw Jordan Spieth have 2 triple bogeys in a row, so very volatile golfers right there. We saw what can happen at the downside. But we also saw him gain over 3 strokes on approach in the other 3 days. So really had the irons working last week at the Northern Trust, was a little bit sneaky in that facet. And the only reason he didn't contend was the putter. He actually lost strokes putting last week. He's typically one of the best putters on tour, and for him to not gain strokes putting is extremely rare. Last week, if he had just gained a stroke or 2 putting, he could have very well won that golf tournament at the Northern Trust. So a cleaner Bryson this week is somebody that goes out, doesn't lose 3 to 4 strokes on approach, doesn't hit 2 to 3 water balls on the same hole. Also somebody who goes out and gains strokes putting like he typically does. If he does both of those 2 things, I think he goes out and wins the BMW Championship. I already have an outright bet on Bryson, got him at 35 to 1. I think you would be wise to do so as well. So my bread and butter play this week is Hideki Matsuyama at $8,800. He is a top 5 model rank for this week. Somebody who's been absolutely striping the golf ball. If you guys take a look at my course breakdown, some of my key stats of this week is number 1 approach, 2 off the tee, 3 around the green play. That is exactly what Hideki Matsuyama does. Over his last 24 rounds, we have gains of 0.71 strokes off the tee, 0.96 on approach, and has been a healthy gainer around the green as well. So he has the strength to overcome a lot of the tough Kentucky bluegrass we're going to be seeing at this venue. He's also been a bit of a bent grass specialist, gaining an extra 0.18 strokes shots gained per round on that surface. I really look for his ball striking to keep him out of trouble. I expect him to give himself at least enough opportunities despite his poor putting to get the job done. And with a winning score likely to be in the single digits under par, those are exactly the type of events to target Matsuyama at. For our value play, somebody very similar to Matsuyama, that's partially why I have Sergio as a pick here. I'm definitely going to be correlating the two. Is at $7,600. He's also a top 20 model rank here. A player who grades out as almost a mini Matsuyama these days. Essentially the same ball striker. Somebody who's immaculate off the tee, immaculate on approach, and around the green. It's just a worse putter than Matsuyama. That's why you don't see quite as many top finishes. Over his last 24 rounds, Sergio has been gaining 0.88 shots gained off the tee. That's excellent. That is top 5 in the field. Also has been gaining 0.11 shots gained approach, which, if you guys know anything about Sergio Garcia, that is not a good number for him. He's typically one of the best approach players on tour, and a lot of the reason that number has been as low as it has been some of his volatility. Over his last 4 months now, we're going to do this by tournament now, he has lost shots gained 8 times over those last 4 months. So he's had quite a few events where he just hasn't had it. Obviously missed the cut in those events. But he's also had 7 events where he's gained over 5 strokes on approach. So we've seen that volatility. We've seen him when he has it. He's posted plenty of top 10s when he's had that approach play as well. So if we get good Sergio this week, he's going to be in contention. Could even be in the lead at some point this week. So for me, as a value play at $7,600, where the player pool really starts to stretch out, there's not that many great options priced down low this week. That has a lot to do with the fact we only have 70 players, and it's all the best players in the world, so it's pretty hard for DraftKings to put a lot of the good guys down low. But Sergio is definitely one of the foundational pieces I will be looking to. For our diamond in the rough, we have Cam Davis. He's priced at $6,900. He's a top 30 model rank for the week. And he's exceptional at courses that demand length in bunches, specifically with a lot of long iron shots. And so for the 2021 super season, nobody has been better than Davis on approaches from over 200 yards. So at Caves Valley, we have 4 par 3s measuring over 210 yards, so you're going to need the long irons for those. We also have a slew of long par 4s and par 5s. If you take a look at how he's done statistically, at least over the last 24 rounds, he really hasn't been his best. Obviously had the win at the Rocket Mortgage Classic that was just outside that range. And he's been relatively volatile of late. He's been getting it done with the putter some weeks. Sometimes it's been with the off the tee play. And heck, sometimes it's even been with chipping in with the around the green. But by far his biggest weakness, the trend of late has been a little bit of shortcomings with his iron play. So he hasn't been his best. The typically very strong iron play hasn't been there. But what I really like to see with Caves Value is that you have a lot of these long holes, a lot of holes that are playing over 200 yards, and we have the number 1 long iron player on tour. So he's going to be in his happy range a lot more often this week. He's going to have a lot more opportunities to gain strokes on the field. And again, if he can go out and just gain a stroke or two on approach, the rest of his game is just solid enough to get by, even win a golf tournament. Obviously we saw that at the Rocket Mortgage. So this week, Cam Davis, I think he's a very solid flyer. Diamond in the rough for me this week. Somebody that you can fill out your lineups with, you can get some salary flexibility from, but he still has top 10 upside. Again, just needs to get the iron play to come around just a little bit. And for our flyer play, the whole way down low, we have Emiliano Grillo at $6,500. Also a top 30 model rank. He's somebody who really needs a big finish this week to make Eastlake and the Tour Championship. He does have the game to actually get that done. So Grillo's cooled off after being scorching hot just about a month or two ago. He was consistently finishing in the top 10 for about a good month there, right near their RBC heritage. And even though he hasn't had quite as good finishes of late, he's still been an absolute elite ball striker, getting 1.02 shots gained approach per round over his last 24 measured rounds. And the reason for the lack of success has been the short game. He's bled strokes all over the place. While he's likely to get embarrassed a little bit around the green, Grillo is somebody that can get hot enough to really mitigate the effects around the green. And what I mean by this is Grillo is such a good iron player that at times he hardly ever misses greens. And when you're hardly missing greens, it's going to be a little bit harder to bleed strokes in that category. So if we get Grillo to go out this week, get scorching hot with his irons like he does time to time, it might not matter. So we saw that with Abraham Answer at last year's Northern Trust. I mentioned that in last week's preview. Abraham Answer was a fade of mine because he's somebody who doesn't have a great around the green play, had to get super hot, and he was in that high 9K range, had a ton of ownership. Grillo's the complete opposite, right? He's in that low 6K range. Nobody's going to Grillo this week, right? All he has to do is just get really hot with the thing that he's very good at. So while the odds of that happening, aren't great, they're not higher than 50% or anything like that. With 5 or 10% of your lineups going to him, it's well then worth it, right? You have tons of upside, some of the highest upside, probably the highest upside of anyone in that 6K range, and I'm going to be going to him in about 10 to 15% of my builds this week to try and capture that upside. And again, you're not really getting over the field too much with that kind of number. A comp course that we've seen Grillo do well at, we saw him do well at the Wells Fargo Championship, was the first round leader there. Also at the Valspar, where he was the first round leader as well. Got off the scorching starts, didn't really matter about that hard around the green play or anything like that. Just didn't miss many greens. So we've seen that upside before. Again, the putter's not great, but you're not going to really find much consistency down low in the 6K range with anybody. And that's all I've got for this week's DraftKings picks. Let me know in the comments who you guys think wins this year's BMW Championship. We haven't had anyone get the correct winner or an outright for the free month of the Patreon projections yet. But this week we're going to give a free month to the person who guesses the best golfer, the person who finishes the highest this week. If we end up having a tie, multiple people picking the same golfer, or like multiple people tie for second or something like that, you guys will both end up winning the Patreon. So don't worry about that. Make sure to enter. Somebody's getting access to the Patreon for free this time around. And if you guys want to check out the Patreon page and get access right now, make sure to check out the link in the description. On the Patreon, you guys can get access to my projections for every player in this week's field, not just the guys that I talk about in my videos. You get access to not only their projected points, you get access to their model rankings, you get access to their ownership projections, whether they're in my player pool, all that kind of good stuff. And on top of that kind of stuff, you also get access to my Discord server where you can ask me any questions you guys have between players or just about DFS in general. So I highly recommend it. The best part is It's just $1, so no reason not to join. Make sure to check out the link in the description. As always, thank you guys for watching. A like goes a long way with helping me grow this channel, so make sure to subscribe if you guys haven't already as well. Until next time, I'll see you guys.